Arguably, could be the most exciting parsha in the Chumash, at least. Definitely, it's up there. I'm sure some people here have it as a fan favorite. And the parsha begins with the climax of the story that we've been dealing with from last week, and the parsha is leading up to it. And it's Vayigash Elav Yehuda. Yehuda comes to Yosef, and he basically recounts the entire story. Very similar, and you count the entire story that Yosef is already aware of, and asks him, not to take Binyamin, take me instead. And famously, as we know how it ends, Yosef is not able to hold himself back, and he cries, and the rest is history. The question I saw Rabbi Frand asks is, what worked? Why was this successful this time when Yehuda just tried the same thing at the end of the previous parsha? And then the Miketz, Yehuda also tried. He asked Yosef, he said, you can't take him, why don't we all become Avadim instead? And he basically, there's some nuances, but he basically kind of repeats himself. And this time Yosef can't control himself. So what exactly changed from the previous time that he tried this to now? So Rabbi Frand explains a beautiful pshat that if he was just talking to Yosef, if Yehuda was just trying to talk to Yosef, then you're right. When you talk to a person, the person already tells you no, it doesn't usually help to keep pushing them, it just makes them more bothered, more annoyed. But when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's different. And it says Rabbi Frand, and we'll bring a raya to this, that Yehuda was coming, although he was talking to Yosef, he was really talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He was really being mispalel. And he was davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu one last chance. He was trying to give one last tefillah to see maybe I could do something, maybe something could change before it's too late. Where do we see tefillah here? It doesn't really say he's talking to Hashem. So there's a shmak raya, a very, very good raya. I liked it a lot. We all know, as little kids, first grade, maybe even younger, probably one of the first halachas you learn about davening is you take 3 steps forward before Shemona Esrei. When you learn Shemona Esrei, you know 3 steps forward. We all know it. Where does it come from? So the Ramah in Siman Tzadi Hey, I'm sorry this is not your day here, but Be'ez Hashem next time. So Siman Tzadi Hey, the Ramah brings the halacha to walk 3 steps forward. It's from a Rokeach, and he says the following: Yesh Oyrim She'omer L'Spalel Yelech Lefanav Shalosh Psiyos. Some say, again, I guess it's become today. It's clearly that we all do it. Take 3 steps forward. Derech Kiruv V'Hagasha L'Davar Shetzarech Lasos, to show a certain way of going towards something that you need to do. What's the makar for this? So here it's not brought, but Darkei Moshe over there the Ramah brings that there's 3 times, it's connected the 3 times that it says a lashon of Hagasha, of Vayigash in Tanakh. Which 3 times? So one of them is by Avram Avinu, by Sodom. It says Vayigash Avram, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu Avram Avinu starts davening to Hashem that maybe there's 50 tzaddikim, maybe 40, maybe 30. He goes through all the numbers that we know. That's clearly a tefillah. I'm going to skip over number 2 because that's what we're going to get back to. And number 3 is Eliyahu, by Eliyahu Navi, by Har Carmel. He gets up and he's Vayigash Eliyahu, and he davens. So clearly, he sees Lashon Tefillah, and he brings what's the number 2 that I just jumped over? Vayigash Elav Yehuda brings the Rekeach, and that's the Mar Makom that we learned for Tefillah. So clearly, there is some sort of Tefillah going on here. This works very well with the pshat that Rabbi Fran wanted to say, that Yehuda was coming with a Tefillah. So one of the Yesodis that we see from what Yehuda was doing is he was coming with one last Tefillah. Maybe there's something I can do. Even though I don't think this is Yehuda's first time davening for this. I'm sure he was the whole time that you're dealing with this whole ordeal, he was davening. But he kept going. He kept trying again. I'm going to daven again. I'm going to daven again. Famously, like many know, this Yesod is really clear by Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm sure everyone familiar with Vaischanan, that we know that he davened 515 times, the gematria of Vaischanan. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to tell him, the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to stop, because if you keep davening, I'd have to let you in. But the first 515 times weren't enough. But now this 516 was enough. So you see that when it comes to tefillah, it's something different. It doesn't work like the way we talk with a human being. It's not, I already asked the guy 4 times and he told me no. I kept asking for this thing for my friend and he's told me no. So let me just, by tefillah, it's not like that. There's an inyan of riboy tefillah. There's a very nice maisa. Actually, before I get to the maisa, the Gemara itself really says this in many places, but 2 of the places that came to my mind were the Gemara in Brachos on Daf Lamed Beis says, Amar Rabbi Chama Rabbi Chanina, Imra Adam Shispal V'lo Nene, Yachzer Yispalo, Shnemar Kavi Hashem Chazak Mitzbecha, V'Kavi Hashem Vayter, you should go daven, even if you saw Hashem didn't answer you. The Gemara also says in Daf Yod, Afilu B'Shah Shecherev Chada Munachas Al Tzavar Shel Adam. You see that there's a sword even by your neck. Al Tisyash Ben Rachim, never give up on the Rachim, you never know when it's going to come. There's a story that I heard. There was a group of girls who were having trouble in Shidduchim, and they kind of made like a chizuk group where they would give each other chizuk, however that works. I guess the name is kind of clear with what they were doing. So at one point they decided, Shidduchim was really not going, they're getting older and it was getting very difficult, so they wanted to get a bracha. So they sent somebody to get a bracha for them from Rav Yashiv. And when that person, who the Rav, came back to tell them what the bracha was, the person went to Rav Yashiv. He asked Rav Yashiv, what should these girls do? What they want to take on some? Is there any segula? Is there anything we could do to help for the shidduchim? And Rav Yashiv said, tell them they should daven. So obviously this Rav coming back to the girls was quite nervous and was dreading having to tell the girls, who had probably been davening over and over and over again, he said to daven. So when he gets to them, he tells them, they asked, what did he say? He said to daven. So the girls were, quite distraught and were down about that. So this Rav continued on to Rav Aaron Leib Steinman, and he told Rav Aaron Leib what happened. He said, he mentioned the whole story, that I went to Rav Yashiv, and Rav Yashiv what he said, and the girls are pretty down about it. What would you say? Like, do you have any other eitzah? He said, no, it's exactly Rav Yashiv. He said, tell them that's exactly the eitzah. They should daven because you don't know what tefillah is going to do it. It's going to be, might not be the first, might not be 150, might be 515. You never know what tefillah is going to do it. So he said exactly that. Rav Steinman said, it's exactly what you should be doing. They have to keep davening. We see that this is also a theme throughout Klal Yisrael as a people. This is what we never give up. We keep going. There's a fascinating Gemara. It's really a fascinating Gemara. It's Chiyas. So I'll start with the Gemara. The Gemara in the Darim on Daf Chav Gimel tells a story which seemingly is not so eventful. It says, "Ma'isa ba'adam echad shehidir ishtay milalis the regel." There was a person who made a neder. I guess there was a shalom bayis issue going on there, and he told her she can't be oil regel that year if she doesn't do such and such. V'avral daita v'asal regel. She ended up going against what he had. She ended up being oil regel even though the neder was not to. So now I guess they had made up, and he wants to help his wife who's now being over on a neder. So ubalifnei Rabbi Yossi. So this husband went to Rabbi Yossi and he asked him. He wants him to be mafta the neder. So Rabbi Yossi says to him, Amar lo ilu ayisi yadeyasha ayveres al daitcha ve'oil regel klum hadarta. If you would have known that she was going to anyways go ahead and be oil regel, would you have made the neder? And he said, Amar lo lo v'hitir Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, okay, then clearly that's not a neder. Fine, everything is good. End of the story. Martzchias here has a kasha. He says that the problem with this story is that Rabbi Yossi was 2 daras after the Churban Abayis. So we have a problem here, because what is this couple doing going to Rabbi Yossi and talking about being oil regel if we're already 2 daras after the Churban? So the Martzchias brings the fasting Martzchias, Kedai see inside. He brings this mikan. We have a raya from here that the minig of Klal Yisrael to be oil regel, whether this means up on the Makom Mikdash or not, I'm not getting into that. But clearly going to Yerushalayim, even bisman hazeh, even lachar Churban. Another Makom for this is the Ran and Tainus. The Gemara in Tainus there brings the on Daf Zayin, I think it was. The Gemara there brings, maybe it's Yoder Zayin, someone could check it after, is that brings that even though we're not, when do we start, we know we're maskiring Gvuras Kasham, and we say Mashav Rucham Geshem already from someone help me out here, Simchas Torah. Yeah, thank you. But when do we start asking for Saint Talamater? That's only from Zayin Cheshvan. Why do we wait? Because the people are regular have to get back. What about Bizmaninu? So the Ran there says, Ha'idna, even though there's no bias, but since there's a minig, we're nehigid to go up, there's a minig to go to be Ayla Regel, therefore we still have to wait until we start asking Bishol for Geshem. Question is, what's on this minig? Why are we Ayla Regel, even Bizman Hazeh? What would be the concept behind that, going to Yerushalayim? What's the point? So some either could say a technical pshat, which is not the point we're trying to do here, but one technical pshat would be is that because it's showing it's a riot to the Shitas Rambam that it's Kitchel L'Shaita is Kitchel Asad Lava, the Kedusha of Yerushalayim remains even after the Churban. But aside from that, I heard a beautiful pshat once that there's a Medrash in Shir Shirim. I don't have it here, but the Medrash says that Klal Yisrael is compared to a Yonah, to a dove, and the question is, Lama Lim Shel Klal Yisrael. Why is Klal Yisrael compared to a dove? So there's the Medrash there gives a bunch of shatim, but one of them is, which I really brings up this Nakuda, is that just like a Yonah, even after it says there, even after its nechrav, the cane, its nest was destroyed, the Yonah still travels back every day, even though it knows it was destroyed, to keep checking. Maybe it's possible that maybe got fixed. Maybe it's there, even though it knows it's not, but he still wants to go back. Kach Klal Yisrael, so to Klal Yisrael, even after the Churban, we haven't forgotten. We're still constantly hoping, maybe, even if Lamaisa, we know in our head, we know it's not there. We're just there. No, we still go back because we never give up. We always are trying, thinking weiter, maybe. And the same thing by Tefillah. By Tefillah, there has to be a constant and a never-ending drive to keep davening for something, even if you see that it's not going through and it's not working. Talking myself included, that you have to keep pushing. And we'll talk in a second. Rav Pinkus, we'll talk about it in a second. In Sharm B'Tefillah, there's a whole arichas about why Tefillah is set up in that way, where there's a riboy, where I have to be marbe the Tefillah. It's not like a regular, why it doesn't work like other things. Klapi Tefillah, I just saw also a Maisa with Rav Asher Zelig Rubenstein. I don't know if anyone's familiar. Maybe some people are. Getting some head nods, I'm not. Okay, no one? Fine. I guess no one learned in Torah Simcha, but okay. So anyway, so here's a Maisa with Rav Asher Zelig Rubenstein, who was Zatzal, who was had a yeshiva here in Yerushalayim. So he said that when he was a bacher, many years ago, when he was a bacher in Panovich, he said he had a chavrusa who was a shomer for that chavrusa the day before his wedding, and that chavrusa was very makbid about one thing. It's not trying to pump up this Schmooze now, but this chavrusa was very makbid to always go to the Schmooze of the Mashgiach. That's how the story goes. So it just sounds very funny. But that was this guy's thing. He was always going to Rav and Sheen's Schmooze. He didn't want to miss it. He never missed one. And his chasen was that Thursday night, and the Schmooze was always on a Wednesday. And he asked Rav Chatzkel whether he should go to the Schmooze or not, because his mother was coming in on a flight that Wednesday evening, and or should he be at the Schmooze? And Rav Chatzkel told him, of course, kibbud aim comes first. Go miss the Schmooze. Fine. Now we heard this. Rubenstein is the one who told us over the Maisa, and he knows this firsthand because he was the shomer of this guy on that day. So he said that day Thursday arrives, and Wednesday, the night when the mother's coming in for that night comes, and lo and behold, at the Schmooze, who's there? The guy. He's sitting there at the Schmooze, and Rav Chatzkel's looking at him, the whole Schmooze, and the boy's smiling away like from ear to ear, happy he could be there, didn't miss the Schmooze. So Rav Chatzkel goes over and says to him, like, what happened? We kind of just had a discussion about this. I told you kibbud aim comes first, not the shir. And he said, I know. He said, I davened. I couldn't miss the Schmooze. Like no one wants to miss a Schmooze. So he said, I davened, and you're never going to believe it. He said, when I called up the airlines a couple hours before, hoping that maybe my tefillahs worked, I found out that the flight had arrived 2 hours early. And when I picked up my mother, it gave me just enough time to get back. And my mother commented that even the pilot of the plane said on the loudspeaker that we made 2 hours. I've never made it this early, but there was crazy tailwind. In my history, I've never come back, never gone anywhere near this early to getting there, to arriving. So Rav Rubenstein always said that the koach of tefillah, you never know what could happen. In terms of, the question is, why does the Kadosh Baruch Hu want it this way then? So when it comes to our tefillah, so we get it, to keep davening again and again, but what's the concept? Why does the Kadosh Baruch Hu set it up this way? So Rav Pinkus, I think, is a beautiful approach in Sharm B'Tefillah. Why is tefillah like this? He says, because the whole purpose is actually for us. Kadosh Baruch Hu, each time you daven, you're getting closer to Hashem, because you're relying on Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if you have to be marbe b'tefillah, so you have to get closer and closer to Hashem. So Hashem is only doing it so that we can create a closer kesher to Him. That's the whole concept of why they have to be marbe b'tefillah. And he says that something very interesting is that when it comes to the Maisa Bakasha, when it comes to tefillah, it's different than by other things. By other people, so you're coming when it's ben adam lechaveru, so anytime the focus is you want to get you ask someone for a favor, you want to get the result. But when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when it comes to Tefillah, the result is not, it's not about the result, it's actually about the building that relationship with Hashem. He gives a mashal over there about a melech, about someone who's sick, who went to go, he was very, very sick, and he had to go to a doctor who was known to be top in the field, who also happened to be a real mensch and a nice guy. And the sick person went all the way to this doctor, and the doctor treated him over the months or however long it was, and he got better. And not only that, they also became good friends. So if you ask the guy, out of the two things you got, which one was more important to you? It was the fact that I got better, I'm able to live. It's also nice that I became friends with the doctor. He says, Mashgiach, when it comes to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the result is nice. You might get more years of life or something you daven to Hashem, but it's the kesher that's going to be much more important down the line, what you're going to need in Olam Haba. Another thing Rav Pinkus writes there is that there's a concept. We all know when it comes to learning, there's an idea of being a masmid, because we understand that it's not just about learning more hours. It's that it's a different person, a person who's a masmid, a person who's learning. A person who's constantly in his learning, is constantly going more and more and more. He's a different person than someone who's just breaking it up and learning different hours. He says the same thing when it comes to tefillah. He said the tefillah is a different tefillah when you're a masmid in that tefillah and you keep pushing fighter with that tefillah until it happens. He said your connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu is so much stronger than it would have been if you just only asked once and it happened. And one other thing that he mentions over there is that he says that sometimes people get discouraged when, let's say, a person passes away. So there's a choli, everyone's davening, and they're having communal tehillim, and it's a very normal feeling to think, okay, so I guess it didn't work this time. So Pinkus writes that that's chas v'shalom. He said it's a totally wrong way to look at it. He said tefillah, besides the fact that everyone just built an amazing connection with Hashem through the tefillahs they were davening for that person, you have no idea, he says, where the tefillahs go. We have no idea how it helped and what it helped and who went for it, maybe for someone else. Because Baruch has a whole different cheshbon that we have. And the mashal, there's a Dubna Magi brings a mashal to this Nakuda, and I think it brings that to the point, which is that he says, let's say there was two women shopping for clothing in a clothing store. There was an old woman, an elderly woman, and there was a young lady. And the elderly woman, she's looking around at the clothing and she's checking each thing to make sure it fits her exactly. And she's going through each one slowly to see if it's the right fit, like a normal thing to do. This young lady was going through and just grabbing off the shelf, just putting it in, just grabbing it. Finally, the elderly lady says to her, "Why are you, aren't you going to try and make sure that it fits?" And she's like, "If it doesn't fit one of my kids, we'll go to the next kid. If it doesn't fit that kid, it'll fit someone. It's going to fit somebody." The Zakta Dubna Magid, it's the same thing when it comes to tefillah. If your tefillah didn't go for that, it went for something. What it went to, unclear, but it went to something. We don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to go to somewhere. I just want to end off with a maisa that I saw once from Rav Zilberstein brings down a wild story. So Rav Zilberstein, aside for being Master Talmid Chacham and major Mechaber Sfarim, he also is a posik, but also specifically he is involved in a lot of medical shilas, and he has like a group, usually about I think it's once a month, I don't remember if it's once a week or once a month, of doctors that meet with him and they discuss all the different medical questions that they had that month or that week. So Rizovshin goes through the questions, and they answers it, and he said one time he was there and he was dealing he dealt with all the questions, it was over, all the doctors left, and by the door, one of the doctors that he had known for a bunch of years had been there, was just kind of standing there by the door waiting for him. So Rizovshin walks over, approaches the man and says, "Yeah, is something you need from me?" And the man was trying to get the words out of his mouth, it wasn't coming. He looked a little bit like, Rav Zilberstein saw that he was a little bit tense, a little nervous. And the man kind of just took out a siddur from a bag that he was holding, and he hands the siddur to Rav Zilberstein. He looks at it and sees that it says, "Siddur LaTalmidim," like a nice young child siddur. So Rav Zilberstein was a little confused. It was a gift, he didn't know, so he said, and then finally the man explained, this doctor explained. He said, "I want to tell you, Rabbi, something that happened." He said, "I got married 15 years ago, and after year, we tried many different things to have children, and unfortunately we were told by the doctors that it's medically impossible, for whatever reason. So after about 10 years of trying everything we could, we decided to go and adopt a child. And we adopted our kid, and his name's Benny. And he's the joy of our life, and he's everything to us. And little Benny, as he got older, kept asking, without understanding, obviously, when can I have? I want to have a brother. I want to have a sister. And we didn't have the heart. Obviously, he's too little. We didn't explain it to him. We never told him. He said about 9 months ago, he had his siddur masiba, the masiba that they give when the kids get their siddur. And at the siddur masiba, we saw that Benny was he was obviously excited, but he was over the top, more than usual, was like jubilant. He was just so happy. So I pulled him aside at the end of the day when I was putting him to bed, and I said to him, what makes you so happy? And he said, that I got my siddur. He said, so nice. And then Benny added in, because now I can daven to Hashem that I can have a sibling, that I can have a brother. And he said, the father, this doctor said, I didn't have any words to say. I had nothing to say back to him. And I just left the room and cried. He said, but I want you to know that today we just made a bris for our child, for our child that we just had. And he said that it's only because this siddur and this tefillah of my child who believed that Kadosh Baruch Hu could do it and didn't give up. The rest of us, we gave up, but we didn't give up. So I guess my bracha is for all of us is to whatever we're trying to accomplish, whatever we need from Kadosh Baruch Hu, is to never give up and keeping marbe b'tefillah, and Kadosh Baruch Hu, whatever it's going, Hashem, to build that connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and we should be zoichet to see Nisim Yeshuas B'Karev.
We really hope that you're able to grow and enjoy with this amazing content that we just put together. Do us a favor. Don't just make it about you and me. Share this with the world. Get that Torah out there for everyone to see. Additionally, if you want to hear more, which we hope you do, you can subscribe to our content so that you can be up to date with all of the new amazing Torah that we have here in the yeshiva, pumping it out to you as the klal.